Hey, it's me. I'm just calling to say it's really not that deep.
Okay, so welcome to Not That Deep, which is honestly hilarious because it's probably going to get pretty deep. I'm not a surface level kind of gal. I'm not going to do a whole introduction and who I am because if you're here, you probably already know me. Otherwise, how else would you have found this? I've not made it to the top of the Spotify charts yet. So let's just get the formalities. But I have been wanting to start this podcast for so long, and every single time I sit down to plan it, I either overthink it or I try to make it sound like someone else. And to be honest, this is the first time that I've sat down and I'm actually like, this is probably the least formal that I am. I used to think everything had to be perfect, but whatever. This is literally just me sitting in my house, talking like I would on a FaceTime with my best friend. Zero script, zero structure, zero filter, and yeah, I just felt like there was nothing out there for someone like me. Yes, there's podcasts for people who have built the empire and they're telling you how they scaled to 7 figures in 7 minutes. And I love that for them, but I just can't relate to that right now. And then there's podcasts for people that have like huge big life transformations and they've hit rock bottom, they've risen from the ashes, and that's great too. But what about when you're just in the middle? Genuinely just in the thick of it, trying to figure out who you even are, trying to show up, trying to make shit happen, and also just questioning everything. What do you even want anymore? Why does this feel so hard? Am I the only one that feels like this? And this podcast, Not That Deep, is for the girl who is just outgrowing everything. Not in a way that's dramatic or burning your life to the ground, but just like for someone that's just slowly noticing that things just don't feel the same anymore. All the things that used to excite her, they don't really hit like they used to. The people that you used to feel so connected to suddenly feel a little bit distant, and you can't even explain why. You're just in your own little bubble. And I feel like for me, I have so many people in my life that's like, I love you, but I also can't talk to you about this part of my life anymore because not everyone's on that same journey, and that's okay. And then you start sometimes spiraling, thinking, am I the problem? Have I changed too much? And I think that's the whole point of life. I have changed, and that is the point. You're literally becoming someone new. And I feel like that in between stage is just weird, and no one talks about it. And everyone wants to talk about the before and the after, but not the during. And that's where I've been living. I've been just knee deep in the middle of a life shift where I don't even know what I'm doing half the time, and I'm starting to care a little bit less about being perfect and a little bit more about being real. So that's what this is. This podcast is not going to give you a 10-step morning routine that's going to change your life. It's not going to promise overnight success, but hopefully it's going to make you feel seen, and it's going to remind you that you're not broken just because you feel a little bit lost, and you're literally just becoming someone new. And that shit takes time. And I think that so many of us, especially women, were taught to keep it together, to always be achieving or performing or growing, but nobody really told us what it feels like to actually outgrow things. Like what happens when you wake up one morning and you realize the life that you built doesn't feel like you anymore. And that's what happened to me. And I feel like that's why I wanted to just start this podcast. I just wanted to have something to document it and share my journey. And if no one listens, cool. But if people do, then great. But this is not that deep, except it kind of is. And I'm so glad that you're here, because if I'm going through it, then there's a chance that you probably are too. And I think that maybe we don't have to figure it all out. We just have to talk about it. So let's just get into how this all even started. I am here recording a podcast in my living room randomly on Tuesday afternoon. But when I properly stepped into this next version of myself, or at least started to, because it's easy to look at someone and be like, wow, she's so brave, or she must have had it all figured out or have a plan. I'm not joking. I literally just woke up one day and I was like, I'm leaving my job. There's no big breakdown, no plan or logic behind it. I just thought I can't really do this anymore. And I had this quiet little feeling in my soul that was just like, yeah, it's time. And I'm a very impulsive person, so when I feel something, I move fast. I can't sit around and wait. So I literally woke up one morning, I said I was going to quit my job, I walked into work, I told my boss that I was thinking about leaving. And I don't think that he believed me at first. I think he kind of laughed it off and was like, whatever you want to do, I'll support you, whatever. And then we never really talked about it again. And then I was like, no, I'm actually serious. And then a week or two later, I properly gave my notice. I had no plan, I had no backup, no blueprint. I just literally had like this feeling in my chest. I had my Canva account and I had my network, I guess. And that's how I started my business, which is a social media agency. And I've been doing it in some form for the past 10 years, to be honest. But this was my first time fully betting on myself, and it worked. Within 12 weeks, I was working with people that I loved. I felt so much more at peace and alive again. And everyone on the outside was like, wow, you're doing amazing. And it looked that way because it started off that way. But what they didn't see, and what I don't really speak about often, and I probably won't speak about much, but I was going through one of the worst times of my life personally, and mentally trying to keep it all together. I don't really think that anyone ever really knew because I never really didn't say to my clients or anything, and didn't post about it on social media. And maybe that's on me, but I also I'm the kind of person that I carry my own shit. I don't like to burden people. I never want to be like the girl that's always sad or always going through something. So I just kept on going. I kept delivering, but I kept pretending that I was okay. And it worked because my business was growing and it was doing amazing. I was planning a wedding, so I was really focused on that. I was getting up every day, doing my makeup, posting my reels, replying to clients, doing content shoots, and then crying in the bathroom 5 minutes later. And I look back now and honestly, I don't really know how I did it, but I think that when you're up against it and your back's against the wall and you're like, shit, I have to make money, I just quit my job and there's no option but to keep going, and you just end up doing it. But I don't recommend it. I would always say be mindful of how you're feeling, and don't avoid that. But can we also just talk about how social media doesn't show any of this? I was still posting, smiling at events, taking my pictures. No one would have guessed that I was going what I was going through, but I feel like that's a really important lesson. Social media is not real life. For me, it's kind of like therapy. I love posting. I love creating my memories. I love sharing things. That's my outlet. I like to have a space to go on, and it's a positive space for me. I'm very good at unfollowing people that I don't feel good from. I'm very good at creating a space that I like. I'm never going to be someone who dumps their trauma online, but just know that if you're comparing yourself to what people post on social media, please don't, because you never know what's going on behind the scenes. And I promise you, everyone is carrying something. And that whole year taught me that you can hold both. You can be building something good and also be breaking at the same time. You can feel proud of yourself and you can still feel like you're barely holding it together, and that doesn't make you a fake person. It just makes you human. Anyway, after the wedding, I finally had this weird moment of stillness where everything just stopped and I had nothing to plan anymore. My business was already there, and that's when everything kind of hit me at once. All of the grief, the pain that I'd been avoiding, and I fully crashed. I remember one time my sister just asked me, we were driving, she's like, so how have you been? And I just started crying and she's like, oh, something's not right. But that's when the real work started. I realised that I couldn't keep avoiding myself anymore. I couldn't keep avoiding my feelings. So after the wedding, everything just kind of slowed down, which sounds obviously it should be a good thing, right? But it was actually the first time I'd properly paused in like a year, and suddenly I was like, oh shit, I have been distracting myself with my business, my to-do list, and planning this big day. And now that that's over, I actually have to feel my feelings, and I didn't really want to. So what did I do? I entered my fuck it era. Listen, we all have one. Mine included a lot of partying, a lot of late nights, a lot of looking for something to make me feel good. Anything, chaos, whatever. And to be honest, at the time, I said, I'm just letting loose, I'm young, it's fine. And that's not even a lie. We've all been there. But for me, the truth was that I was running from my feelings, and I think that that's really important to note when you are in these phases of life where you're maybe doing unhealthy habits. Ask yourself, what's this for? Because for me, I knew that I was avoiding, and kind of just at that point, a lot of things happened in business and I just kind of let things go. And I remember waking up one day at the start of this year in January and I felt like, what the fuck am I doing? And I just didn't even feel like myself anymore. And I think that that's the scariest part. When you've always been the motivated one, the one with a plan, the one who reads the books and does the vision boards and journals and gets shit done and wakes up early. And that was always me. And then suddenly you look around and you're like, what's going on? I didn't actually really even recognize myself anymore, to be honest. And that was the turning point for me, because something clicked and it was like, nah, this is not how my story ends. This isn't who I am. So at the start of this year, I stopped drinking, stopped going out, stopped pretending that I was okay, and I actually started doing the work that I've been reading about for years. Since I was a teenager, I have been like really into mindset, law of attraction, all that kind of stuff, doing the inner work, and I actually just started really doing it. I'd been studying it all, but there's a difference between knowing it and living it. So I stripped everything back. I cut the noise, I cut the chaos, and I got really honest with myself. Like, what do I actually want? What does my version of success look like? And more importantly, why do I want it? Why do I even want these things? Because I realized that I had built a life around other people's definitions of success. I used to say that I wanted to have a 7-figure business and a huge big social media agency with a big team and client wins, all this online validation that I was chasing, and I didn't even know if I wanted it. It just sounded impressive. And suddenly I was like, wait, what if I just want peace? What if I just want slow mornings and walks and working from my laptop with my husband in the sun somewhere? What if I just want the freedom and I don't want any stress and I don't want any pressure? I don't want to feel like I'm constantly on the edge of having a breakdown or I'm so busy and stressed and whatever. And once I gave myself the permission to just want those things, I feel like everything started to shift for me. I started to feel like a giant sigh of relief because I stopped fighting myself. I stopped trying to keep up with everyone. I stopped trying to make my life look good. I just started focusing on making it feel good and myself. And to be honest, I think it's really important to question yourself with your goals, and when you're working in life, ask yourself, why do I want this? Do I want it because everyone else wants it, or do I want it because I actually want it? And I'm not gonna lie, it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. You just wake up and you're like, everything's sorted now, I'm clear. It wasn't overnight. I had to rebuild my routines, my habits, my mindset. I started to really work on my business again, but this time from a place of actual alignment, not from fear, not from scarcity, not from what people are gonna think, but from a place that feels good. This feels like me. Even now, I'm still in that season. I haven't got it all figured out. I'm still rebuilding. I'm still learning to hold the good and the hard at the same time, but I can genuinely say that I feel more myself than I have in years. Maybe forever, to be honest. And that's not because of one big aha moment. It's just because of all these little routines and rituals and shifts and going for my walks, listening to my podcast, sitting in silence and checking in with myself. Like the amount of walks that I go on now where I just don't even have my headphones in. I used to always have to have music on or have a podcast on, but now it's like, what am I thinking? And just like the boring stuff, the real stuff, checking in with myself. And I think that no one talks about these things. Everyone's so obsessed with big shiny moments, but those are 5% of your life, if that. I don't even know. I just made that statistic up. But you know what I mean? Those are a really small part of your life. The real magic in life is how you live on a random weekday, how you carry yourself when there's no one watching you, how you treat yourself when you're not perfect, and how are things when there's nothing to post about, when you don't have a wedding or a baby shower or an engagement or a holiday or whatever. And that's when I realized, like, if I want to be really happy, I need to actually just start living and enjoying those small moments, because those make up the everyday. And I'm still figuring it out, but it's mad how peaceful things feel when you stop chasing what looks good and start chasing what feels good. And let me just say this real quick, because I'm not perfect and comparison still will creep in when you least expect it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm above those things. I never think about those things. And the amount of times that I've been in a good headspace and I have a scroll on Instagram and one random post, someone celebrating something, and suddenly I'm like, fuck, am I behind? Honestly, like, even being self-employed, if you haven't had a mini crisis when you see someone posting their highest income month and you're like, fuck, I just learned how to breathe again this morning. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's worse sometimes when you go online and you compare yourself, because there's so much out there to compare yourself to. So if you do feel that you're doing that, don't be hard on yourself. It is normal, but just start to create a space that feels good. If I see things that don't make me feel good, I'm not shy to like mute or unfollow people, but I've had to properly train my brain to zoom out, to remind myself, like, you don't know what's going on behind their scenes, they don't know what's going on behind your scenes. And even when I was having my best months in business, no one saw the things that were going on behind the scenes. You don't need to share everything. You need to do what feels good for you, but just try and remember that nothing is real online, really. And that's why I'm so passionate about telling people, please don't compare yourself to what you see online. because even when someone looks like they've got it all figured out, they're probably battling something too. We all are. We just don't all share it. And also with this journey, another thing that people don't often talk about is people will project their own shit onto you. You will be so confused. Even when I said I was quitting my job, people were like, why would you do that? You have a good job and you've got a salary and blah. And it was so wild to me. That was enough for them. You have a good job, but I don't want to have a good job. I want to be free. And I think that we just need to remember on this journey, people are going to project their fears, their insecurities onto you and try and just zone out from it. I still get those comments sometimes. I've been self-employed now for like a couple of years and doing my random things during the week. And, oh, it must be nice. And it's like, I used to take it personally, but now I am just like, yeah, I love you, but I'm not going to shrink myself to make anyone feel better. A big thing as well that has helped me with friendships is I don't have expectations anymore. I don't expect anything from anyone. No one owes me support just because we're friends. If you do support me, I see it. If you don't, I see that too, but I'm not going to beg someone to clap for me. And I think like a big part of me is like, if I'm winning, you're coming with me, because I want that for everyone. And that's a big thing with this podcast. I want to share. There's no competition for me here. I'm figuring something out. I'll show you the way. Like, if I find a cheat code, I will share it. This world is hard enough. We don't need to gatekeep success. And also with that, if you're building your dream life, I want you to also know that no one's coming to save you. You are not going to just daydream and magically have all your goals come and appear. You have to build it. And I think that was one that really stuck with me. All of this boring, unsexy, hard work, that's what's going to make it. You can have the vision board, you can write the affirmations, you can even be inspired as hell. I used to spend years with doing all these things, but if you're not actually even moving the needle and doing the tasks, then your life isn't going to, then your goals aren't going to happen. And honestly, I used to be like that. I would daydream for hours. Oh, once I'm earning this much or living here and doing this and that. And then I realized, babe, you're still here scrolling on TikTok and you're thinking about it and you're talking about it and you're sharing all these goals, but you're not actually doing anything to move. And I had to really snap out of it and be like, wait, what can I do right now that's going to make me proud, that's going to move the needle? Not having a big clear 20-step plan. I would rewrite my morning routine every Sunday. I'd be like, okay, this week I'm going to do this tomorrow morning and try and change everything, and then I would do none of it because it's not achievable. But I think for me now, what's one thing I can do? Okay, am I going to go for a walk and get inspired? Am I going to record the podcast like I'm doing now? Am I going to send the invoice? Am I going to post my content? Am I going to make a call? Am I going to reply to an email? All of those little things like build momentum. And you have to just move the needle. You're not always going to be motivated. And yeah, this version of me now, the one that you're listening to, she is the product of all of these little things, of tiny decisions, not giving up, deciding to choose better, and deciding to keep going even when I felt stupid or lost or overwhelmed. Like this podcast, I didn't even plan this months in advance. Like I woke up one day last week or the week before and I decided I'm going to make a podcast, and then I ordered a microphone. I just did it. I literally woke up and thought, I need to talk, I need to share, I need to speak to someone who maybe feels the same as me, because I feel like, I don't know, I just felt inspired. And I feel like sometimes you don't need to have all the answers. It's just about backing yourself enough to just try something. Take the step, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else. Like, I didn't even know if I was going to even post this, because at the end of the day, you don't want to look back and be like, oh, I had this great idea, but I never did anything. You want to look back and be like, I actually did it. And I was scared, but I did it anyway. Sorry, I feel like I've just gone on a whole big tangent. But before I wrap this up, I am going to share some shit that I've learned this week, because that's what this podcast is going to be, me sharing the lessons as I go from someone who's figuring it out. So this is the shit that I learned this week. First thing, and to be honest, this is something that I've always known, but really hit home with me this week just by even just doing this. But you don't need to feel 100% ready to move. You just need to feel like even 1% more committed than you are scared. I kept putting things off. I kept waiting for a fake little moment where I'd magically feel ready. And I realised that that moment is not coming, not because I'm not capable, but because ready doesn't exist. I feel like we're conditioning ourselves to over prepare, but we end up getting stuck in this learning trap where you're constantly learning and you're never actually doing. So I feel like you don't need to have 100% certainty. You just need to want it slightly more than what you fear it. And I feel like that really hit me hard, because sometimes fear is not going to go anywhere. you're still going to be scared. Even me posting this podcast, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. It scares me. People are going to judge me. They're going to think I'm cringe. They're going to be like, why does she need a podcast? But that fear is less loud than the desire to just do it. So now I've just been doing the scary things anyway as much as I can, making the decisions before I feel fully ready, because I'd rather fail than sit and wait forever to feel ready. You can't build anything if you're just standing still. You need to just do it, and I'd rather just do it messy than be stuck. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that's really been sitting with me recently is, if it doesn't feel aligned, it's not sustainable. And I feel like that's what I had to realize. Like, I've built so many things, especially in business, that looked so good on paper, working with different clients, offers, routine, content, whatever. On the outside looked like things were great, but I was forcing it and it felt really heavy. And I had to force myself into doing it every single day. I had to force myself into posting the same shit that everyone else was posting. And I realized that I just wasn't aligned with it. It's got to be about how you feel, like the energy that you feel when you do things, whether it drains you or feeds you. Even with people, if there's people in your life that drain you, they're not aligned, and you can make money doing things that are misaligned. Of course, you can be successful by living to other people's standards and having the same dreams as them, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, because if it's not built from a place of peace and truth, and it doesn't feed you energetically, you're going to be miserable, you're going to burn out, you're going to shut down, or you're going to start resisting and you're going to start resenting what you've been building. So for me personally, I'm checking myself now. Every time I create anything and offer a post, a plan, I ask, if no one saw this, if no one was here judging me, would I still want this? And if the answer is no, then it's going in the bin. I'm not building things now for the validation. I'm not launching anything just because everyone else is. I'm just doing what feels good for me. And it has to feel good for me first, otherwise what's the point? So those are the things that I have that really hit home with me this week that I want to share in the hopes that it helps you. So closing thoughts. If you made it this far, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I feel like it's been the world's longest voice note, and my friends will relate to this because I do send these big voice notes, to be honest. You don't take it lightly that you're here. I value your time so much, and I hope that even just one sentence in here shifted something for you. That's the whole point of this. I want to be a pep talker. I want to help you shift your perspectives. I want to make you feel less alone when you're in these messy parts. I'm going to drop a new episode every Wednesday, so please save it, follow along, do all the things that you're meant to do on the podcast, or don't, no pressure. But I just want you to leave feeling a little bit more seen, a little bit more clear, and a lot more powerful than what you did before you pressed play. So until next week, romanticize your life, protect your peace, and stop waiting to feel ready. You already are. So I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.